Thank you for having me. I'd just like to say that Rockland Trust is very proud to be able to give back to the communities that we serve. And we're pleased to be the sole sponsor of the Medfield Foundation Volunteer Event. And I did read through all of the award recipients that were posted in our lobby for about a week or 10 days. And it did get a lot of recognition from the people who stopped by to ask about it. So I'd like to offer our congratulations to all of the nominees and the award recipients, and also to recognize the people who made the nominations, the people who make this wonderful event possible, and to you, the people who come out to support it. So thank you very much and enjoy the ceremony.
Thank you so much, Carol, and thank you so much to Rockland Trust. They've been a great and generous sponsor to this event. Carol Cornelissen, the Commissioner of DCAM, is here. Carol, I don't know if you want to come down front and sit here. You can sit at the table in the front. Thank you for coming. John was nominated for so much of his work involving the state hospital work that we invited the Commissioner to come and join the celebration of John's recognition. The Medfield Foundation started about 11, 12 years ago after we were building schools in town that were going to cost $56 million. There was a general sense that there might be a willingness to do private philanthropy for public purposes in town, and that was the genesis of the Medfield Foundation. To date, it's raised $1,400,000 plus for the town of Medfield public purposes. The idea for the celebrating volunteers in Medfield came very early in the Medfield Foundation. When the schools actually opened, there was a joint event between the schools and the Medfield Foundation called a symphony of community support or something like that. I don't think I had that quite right, but and then starting in 2008, there was sort of an official declaration of a volunteer of the year. And that first year, the Medfield Foundation picked the person. The next year, we just opened it up to the public and said, why don't you folks nominate people? And they did. They nominated that first year, I think, 20 people. And one of the very wonderful things was that half the people that were nominated were high school students. And so we very quickly created a youth award for the high school students. In 2012, Rockland Trust became the sponsor. And to date, there have been over 150 people in Medfield who've either been nominated or have nominated another person for the recognition. So it's involved a lot of our community. This year, we have 14 individuals that submitted materials on 10 different nominees. The nominations, the process was that the winners were picked based on the submissions alone. We don't do any independent verification. The judges for the event were Beth Eby, the 2003 Volunteer of the Year winner. That's our new tradition that we instituted this year of having the Volunteer of the Year be a judge next year. John, we're going to ask you, so be ready. Jim James represented the business community. Kathy Brennan represented the town in general. And then the Medfield Foundation board members, Evan Weisenfeld, the president, Kelly McDermott, Leanne Lavelle, Abby Marble, myself, Bonnie Ryn Burgess, Jan Rimmel, Dorian Fergola. Let's see, I guess the next thing we're going to do is we're going to invite the people who are being recognized to come forward. So Barbara, John, and Andrea, if you guys want to come up here and sit, we're going to start making a lot of big deal about you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am so very pleased to be here. I consider this event to be the heart and soul of the town of Medfield. The strength of our town is the quality and caliber and energy of the people who volunteer at so many levels. And before I present the awards, I'd like to mention that Commissioner Cornelissen, who has worked so long and hard, Monday through Friday, every week since she was appointed, is here sharing her Sunday with all of us in our community. So thank you, Commissioner. And if Beth Murphy is here, I think it would be wonderful if she would come up. Beth Murphy is the legislative aide to the newly elected Sean Dooley. So on behalf of Sean Dooley and myself, we are presenting awards from the House of Representatives. And Andrea, the first award that I have here is for you for being the Medfield Foundation Youth Volunteer of the Year. I just had an opportunity to come from an Eagle Scout ceremony, also in Medfield. And I was talking about the fact that those young folks, and now Andrea, they are our best and brightest hope today for our communities and for our state and for our nation, and certainly for our best and brightest hope for the future. So Andrea, thank you for your extraordinary work. The other award is for John Thompson, and I would like to, I put all my hope in Andrea, but I put all my trust in John Johnson. John Thompson's work has been amazing, and he has brought to his work an incredible amount of not only education and expertise, but integrity and dedication and a selflessness that this kind of project deserves, and we've seen in other volunteers as well, but a selflessness not only for what the community needs today, but for a vision of tomorrow. So John, on behalf of Sean Dooley and myself, we give you this award from House of Representatives. I wanted to talk just briefly about Andy Thompson. People in this room know Andy Thompson so much far better than I, but I was so grateful to know Andy for the time I knew him. And in that time that I knew Andy Thompson, it was infectious, his enthusiasm. It was infectious, his sense of optimism. And it was infectious, his sense of team spirit. And when you hear the story of Andy's life and what his education and his experiences and his ability to channel that in many ways into coaching. And I wouldn't say just coaching sports. I would say coaching the youth of Medfield for year after year after year, to be truthful, for generations, that they're coaching in the things in life that are really important, that may not always be winning, although it does seem to me Medfield wins a lot, being a girl from Needham, but Medfield wins a lot, but not just about that winning, about that kind of sportsmanship and the teamwork and the resilience it really takes. And I think Andy did that particularly well. And on his award, I just wanted to share with you some of the wording on this, because it talks not only about reflecting a lifetime of strengthening the community by demonstrating his love of family and sharing his passion of sports with generations of Medfield youth, but it also says on this award for his supporting our treasured Anne. And many people, when you think of Andy Thompson, you will always think of Ann Thompson and what Andy did to support her political career, and then during her political career, the way he supported her, even to in her last term serving as selectman, when she was visually challenged in some ways. It was Andy who made sure that she showed up at every meeting. And so when we think of Andy, I think we should always think of all of those qualities that helped us to be a better community directly, and the ways he helped us indirectly as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. And thank you, Bob.
Richard and I have just got a few words to say. We're obviously very, very pleased to be here. It's a great day. We always enjoy coming and hearing the wonderful stories of all the great work that everyone does that really makes this town obviously a better place with everyone's volunteer commitment. So we do have certificates of appreciation on behalf of the town of Medfield for Andrea, for John, and also for Andy Thompson. We're just so pleased to be here and able to share our blessings and to give once again some thanks on behalf of the town. And I'll turn it over to Richard for a few words. Thank you.
I think I use the term what makes Medfield Medfield, and clearly the people that are here today and the people that are up front clearly symbolize what Medfield is all about. Medfield's strength are the people that are here in town, and the amount of time they give, the volunteerism and the support that they give is just unbelievable. And I think that's what sets Medfield just that much above the other communities here. And I just want to take a second as a retired teacher in the Medfield Public Schools, I saw firsthand the caliber of young people we have in the town of Medfield. And if anybody ever doubts what the future of our country is going to be, just come to Medfield High School, because we, as Denise said, indeed have the best and the brightest. And just finally, I just want to make a comment of all the things that Andy Thompson did, from Park and Recreation Commission to all the different sports that he worked on. I was able to work for over 20 years, and I saw Andy Thompson every Friday night football game, that he gave up his Friday nights and was there as the timer. He was the very first one that started way back with Harry Kelleher, and he used to tell the story that they set this platform up on a flatbed truck under the goalpost, and it was like their life in their hands trying to climb up, and from the top, and he did that every single year. And I don't think that got the recognition that it should. So congratulations to everybody here for their awards, and congratulations to Pete and the foundation for all the work you do.
Thank you very much. Senator Timilty called and said that he wasn't able to make it after all, so that we'll hear from our Veteran Service Officer, Ron Griffin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Probably you're all wondering what the Veteran Service Officer is doing here. Maybe it's because of Andy Thompson, because he was a veteran. But no, it's not because of that. It's because of the word volunteer. Long ago, that word usually meant someone who offered himself up for military service. And now it has become, that word is a practice of the concern and welfare of others. So for me to make the leap of honoring those who serve and protect to those who unwillingly, unselfishly give their time to help the citizens in this community is an easy leap for me to make. So it's just as important. And today, what I'd like to do is make a presentation of some American flags. And if I may, these I get through Congressman Joe Kennedy III, and the flags were flown over the nation's capital on February 28th, 214. And the citation reads, at the request of the Honorable Joseph P. Kennedy III, Member of Congress, this flag was flown over, name of the recipient, in recognition of his or her selection for the Medfield Foundation's Achievement Award, and the thanks and appreciation of this volunteer services to the town of Medfield. So, here's the flags.
We also have recognitions from your U.S. senators, your congressmen, and we also have 3 little copies of the posters that are the 3 larger posters that are in the windows there. There are 3 on easels in the back. There are 3 smaller versions of those, and those 3 smaller versions are for you to take home. But we'll let you collect those at the end of the process. The volunteer that we want to hear from today is Siddharth Arun, and Deborah Kelsey, the Medfield librarian, is going to introduce. Sid, can you come up too?
And this is a great pleasure every year. We have some wonderful volunteers at the library, and Sid is definitely epitomizes volunteerism in Medfield. He volunteers at the Norwood Hospital. He teaches chess at the Westwood Chinese School. He's a peer tutor in biology and math at the high school. He's a certified tournament director for the U.S. Chess Federation, and he's attained a national master title in chess in September of 2013. Sid has held a special chess tournament to raise money for the affected from Hurricane Sandy in 2012. And he conceived and runs a weekly chess club for kids from kindergarten through middle school, mostly boys, at the library. It's our most popular program for school-age children. He's been volunteering at the library since 2009, so almost 5 years since he was in the 6th grade. He's done a variety of different things. It's kind of amazing that he stuck it out, but maybe that says something about us too. Parents really appreciate the opportunity for their children, who are 90% boys, to be involved with the chess club. Comments from our most recent evaluations included positive team building, great learning. Sid is a great instructor, and the kids really enjoy themselves and learn a lot from him. He is a great and patient instructor. Approximately 80 kids ranging in age from 5 to 14 have participated since its inception in 2012. Some of these kids have been members from the beginning. It's a testament to Sid's ability and dedication to see kids come back week after week. So without more of that, you can hear from him directly.
Hello everyone, my name is Siddharth Arun and I'm a sophomore at Medfield High School. First of all, I would like to thank the Medfield Volunteer of the Year Committee for this recognition, and I would also like to thank Ms. Kimberly Thompson of the Medfield Public Library for nominating me for Youth Volunteer of the Year Award. It is an honor to be recognized among my fellow nominees. I would like to congratulate all of them for their outstanding work to our community. I love playing chess and have been playing the game since I was 6 years old. I regularly go to regional, state, and national tournaments. And at these tournaments, I see children participating with their schools, and I think to myself that Medfield could one day have a dream team and win the first prize. That was when I thought of the idea to start the Medfield Chess Club. I wanted to create a place where kids and children in Medfield can learn and play chess, with the ultimate goal of sending a team from Medfield to nationals. 2 years ago, I approached the Medfield Public Library with the idea of starting this chess club. But with their generous offer to use their conference room as a meeting place for our club, we were off to a great start, with children ages 5 to 14 coming into play. The club meets on Mondays, 4:30 to 5:30 throughout the year. In the first 20 minutes of each meeting, I teach the children chess strategies such as tactics, openings, end games, middle games, combinations, and tournament etiquette. After the lesson, the children play 2 rounds of chess, which then count towards the session-long tournament that runs 9 to 10 weeks long. I keep track of the scores, and at the end of each session, I award the top 3 scores with trophies, and all the participants in the club with medals. This encourages them to keep playing chess in the future. I've enjoyed teaching the children to play chess, and it has been a great joy to give back to my community while doing something I truly love. Chess is a wonderful game that builds analytical skills, discipline, and respect for others, amongst many other values. My vision is to see children from Medfield participate and shine at the state and national level. In the past 2 years since the inception of the club, I have noticed that the children in our community are very talented, and I'm confident that many of them will become top players in the country. Thank you very much for this recognition.
One of the things that I loved about Sid was that he discovered that there weren't enough chess players at the high school, so he created a system to generate more chess players at the high school. Our next youth nominee is Dina Roche, who's a student at the Montrose School, and she's nominated for her work on with the Medfield Food Cupboard. Esther Keeley from the Montrose School put in the nominations.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Keeley, and I'm the Director of Student Life at Montrose School here in Medfield. I'm proud to be here today to speak about why I nominated one of our seniors, Dina Roche, for the Medfield Foundation Youth Volunteer of the Year Award. Since 7th grade, Dina has been involved in a food drive held at the school to benefit the Medfield Food Cupboard. She began as a volunteer. By 8th grade, she was organizing and coordinating the drive herself and making it a fun event at school. She has done this for the past 5 years. The week-long event coincides with the school's elegant lunch days and occurs about 6 to 7 times a year. At Montrose, student government divides all the girls into 2 teams, either red or white. This is for friendly competition in various events they run during the year. Well, Dina turned the food drive into another friendly competitive event for the red and white teams. She put red and white baskets in the foyer for donations and kept a tally on the bulletin board so the teams could keep track of how they were doing. The students loved it. Last year, Dina added a pink basket for the faculty. It's been very successful. This event requires pre-planning each time it occurs for it to be a success. Dina begins advertising by putting up flyers around the school 2 weeks ahead of time. She also submits a notice for the daily bulletin, the parent website, an event on Facebook, and our TV monitors, which give current events daily. This takes time, coordination, and perseverance. At the end of the week, Dina loads all the donations into her car and takes them to the food cupboard, where she helps sort and check for out-of-date items before distribution. She's enlisted the help of some middle schoolers, inspiring and motivating them to help to serve in this capacity. One of them will be stepping into her shoes next year as she moves on to college, and we're very grateful for that. There is no doubt countless individuals and families have been helped through the selfless efforts of this young woman. In addition to this service, Dina is a member and service coordinator for the National Honor Society. She runs Operation Christmas Child, participates in the Free Rice program, and has taught CCD for the past 2 years, directing her students in service by making sandwiches for the homeless. Last year, she participated in a service trip through Mustard Seed to the Dominican Republic, raising double the amount of money needed for the trip, and was able to share her donations with others to enable them to go. She is a lector at her church, a regular participant in the Relay for Life, and volunteers as a dance teaching assistant for 3rd and 4th graders. Thinking ahead after college, Dina would like to continue impacting the lives of others in service by working for a nonprofit organization. We at Montrose are very proud of Dina, and we know that so many others will benefit through her care and her generosity of self. Thank you for recognizing Dina Roche today for her service to the Medfield community.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be nominated and to be considered with all these young men and women who are inspiring to me as well. So Mrs. Keeley mentioned my work, and what she didn't mention is that, like the young man who spoke before me, this wasn't a project that I came right into with full force and just took over. My first year, I was in 7th grade, and the woman at my school came up to me and said, "Dina, will you take on this project?" And I said, "Sure, of course." I was interested, I wanted to do it. But I was 12 back then, and it fell through. At the time, I didn't really have the spirit of service that I have now. And it required a lot more work than you may think a food drive requires. And I just I couldn't connect that the work that I had the opportunity to do would have such a profound effect on so many people in the Medfield community. So in my 7th grade year, the project kind of got dropped. There weren't a lot of donations sent to the pantry. But over the summer, I reflected with the help of my mom and my brothers, and I realized that my actions had directly resulted and that people in the Medfield community didn't have what they could have had. And so I emailed the woman who was in charge of it, and I wrote my apology letter, and I said, "Will you give me another shot?" And she said, "Yes, of course." So I came back, I was in 8th grade, and I said, "All right, well, I'm gonna revamp this entire thing," and I just threw myself into the project. It was hard. It wasn't easy at first. It took me a while to get my system and to figure it out. Now I have it down to a science. Advertising. I've learned a lot about advertising through this project. I've also learned a lot about organization, about what it means to be a leader. And this project also has led me to do many other service opportunities. Because once I started serving and I realized the effect of what I was doing, it's like an addiction. It's a good addiction though. And I needed to serve. I needed to serve. And so I did other stuff at our school, being the service coordinator at NHS, doing various different projects. And eventually that led me to go to the Dominican Republic with Mustard Seed, which is based, it's US based, if you didn't know that, is actually in Medfield, out behind Montrose. And so I had the opportunity to go on the trip. And while I was on the trip, I met a little boy named Joel. And Joel, he had epilepsy and various other things. And meeting him and seeing that he didn't have the care that he needed really inspired me. And so as I go to college, my plans are to go to pre-med and hopefully medical school. I know that's ambitious though. But even if I'm not a doctor, I know that I want to spend my career with a strong service component. I want to go to work every day, hopefully for a nonprofit organization, and know that the work that I'm doing is having a profound effect and benefiting others. And that all started here in Medfield. And I know that although I may go to work and work to help people globally, hopefully, I know that for the rest of my life, I will be serving locally as well. And I learned that through my work with the Medfield Food Cupboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. That reminds me of one of my favorite sayings from the man who created McDonald's, which was that he said something to the effect of, geniuses, they're easy to come by. Give me somebody with persistence any day. Next, we're going to hear from Ann Thompson, who nominated her 3 neighbors, Wesley, Arun, Corey, Dron, for their great assistance to she and Andy.
I'd like to go off target one little second. Good to see you there, Carolyn. But going back to John Thompson, who is no relation to me, unfortunately, although I claim him because I also have a son named John. But John Thompson and Bill Massaro and I were on the Medfield State Hospital Mediation Commission. And without John Thompson, we would never have made it. Bill had been retired for a good amount of time. I was newly retired, but John Thompson had to give up his time at work. And that was a whole different effort than what we spent. So congratulations to you, John. And the Drons are something special to me. They moved in about 7 years ago, and we became friends right off. They have a dog, we have a dog. But come August last year, they asked me why my husband wasn't walking the dog anymore. And I explained he wasn't well. I didn't want to say he had a diagnosis of terminal cancer. But they said, can you walk him anymore? I said, not really. Every single night, rain, shine, Christmas, Easter, it didn't matter. These boys have come over with their dog to walk my dog. They have climbed the fence, they've cleaned off the dog walk, they have cleaned off the back deck for the dog. They have been unbelievable. They've offered to cut our grass. You name it, they have offered to do it. And there is nobody in this world that has better neighbors than I do. Thank you, Franz.
Thank you. I'm Wesley. I'm a senior at MHS.
I'm Arun, and I'm an 8th grader at Blake Middle School.
And I'm Corey, and I'm a junior at Medfield High School.
So first of all, I just want to thank you, Mrs. Thompson, for nominating us. We try to be the best neighbors we can be, but when my brothers and I found out that Mr. Thompson was sick, we really wanted to just help you out. That's all we wanted to do, and we knew that you owned a young dog, and we had a young dog that got together great, so we thought it would be great to walk them together. So to help you out, we would take them for a walk every single night, and I think we missed 1 or 2, but we try to go every night. And it's harder to see at night too, so I know it's easier for us to take them than you. And there's a lot of ice, especially in the winter. No ice in the summer. So that you could slip on. So we wanted to help you out with that. And we also have shoveled out your back porch during snowstorms because we knew Chico, if we can't go out during a snowstorm, we knew Chico needs to go out and go to the bathroom. So we unblocked the doors so he could get out. And just trying to help out. So thank you so much. We're really honored to be considered for this award and that you've nominated us. So thank you.
Wesley is the cameraman at the selectmen's meetings, and so that I've been watching him for, it seems like years now. I know that when I came out of a selectmen's meeting a couple of years ago and Wesley was driving away, I was shocked. Next we have Andrea Nevins, if you would come back again, and Jean Borden.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Borden, and I wish to congratulate all of the honorees that are being recognized today. You know, I thought this might happen. If I thought more about it, I could have predicted it. I should have known that years ago when I bought lemonade from the little girl up the street and was told that all of the proceeds were going to charity, that the little girl, Andrea Nevins, would be destined for great things and demonstrate a true and genuine interest in helping others. I am proud and appreciative that Andrea and all of those honored here today are being recognized for their commitment toward helping others. They are truly inspirations to us all. Beyond the lemonade stand, I have gotten to know Andrea and her family as neighbors and friends on Indian Hill. My daughter Sally was babysitter to both Andrea and her brother Mark for years. While I was aware of Andrea as a kind and considerate girl, Sally would share with me some of the activities that Andrea was up to, providing yet another glimpse into her commitment of helping others. Andrea's first real volunteering activity was when she was 12, when she helped accompany a young boy with special needs at the UCC church, and that was just the beginning. Along with Brownie, a Girl Scout, and traditional school-based community service activities, Andrea always seemed to do more. It seems somehow very natural for me to nominate Andrea Nevins for consideration for the Medfield Foundation's Youth Volunteer of the Year Award. Her resume reads like a much older veteran to the nonprofit sector. Andrea's most recent endeavor was bringing the Miss Amazing pageant to Massachusetts for the very first time this past December. Miss Amazing is a pageant that provides girls with special needs the opportunity to participate in a fun and festive event in a safe and supportive environment. This event is held in over 25 states, and because of Andrea, it now includes Massachusetts. It was a really great event at the Blake Middle School. It was packed with participants, friends, and families, along with an outpouring of support by the Medfield community. It was a sellout with standing room only. As important as the evening was for participants and their families, it provided the 60 volunteers, most of whom were recruited by Andrea, a significant, meaningful experience. And none of this would have been possible without Andrea. And Andrea just shared with me that this morning, the pageant board decided that the date next year for the Medfield event will be on February 28, 2015. Way to go. Adding to the list of her many other volunteer efforts and accomplishments are a volunteer adaptive ski instructor to kids with special needs at Neshoba Valley for the past 3 years with her mom, Ingrid. Her role in the Medfield High School Student Council since 9th grade, Boston Cares Teen Advisory Council for the past 2 years, and was previously awarded the top fundraising team with her dad, Brian. Governor Patrick's Project 351 Alumni Council Service Coordinator for the past 2 years, and previously picked as ambassador from Medfield in the 8th grade. Best Buddies as a participant and fundraiser for the past 2 years, and many other school-based initiatives. Others have likewise recognized Andrea's accomplishments at an early age, including, and most recently, the Boston Celtics, who recognized her with its Heroes Among Us Award in December. It is appropriate and fitting that the Medfield Foundation likewise recognized her with its Youth Volunteer of the Year Award. Andrea, it has been such a pleasure to watch you grow into the strong leader that you are today. I can only imagine where this path will take you and the number of lives you will touch. It is with great honor and pride that I am here today to present you as Medfield's Youth Volunteer of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you. First off, I wanted to say thank you so much to the Medfield Foundation and to Mrs. Borden for allowing me to receive this award. I would also like to recognize and congratulate John and Andy and all of the other nominees. Without the support of Medfield, my friends, and my parents, I would not be where I am today. I was encouraged not to say too many thank yous, but I am truly grateful to everyone who has helped me on my journey. My volunteer journey began in the 6th grade, when I started volunteering with my church, and I realized I really enjoyed volunteering. However, I then found out there weren't many volunteer options for kid-friendly projects near me. So I began Googling projects in the area that I could get involved in. This was the point in which I realized I needed to take matters into my own hands. I found a great organization called Boston Cares, and from there on out, I was able to find more volunteer opportunities for kids who were 13. Being in middle school at the time, I had many people ask me why I was doing so much volunteering because it wasn't going to count on my transcript. Someone at school even asked me if I was in trouble with the law and had community service hours to fulfill. My answer to why I volunteer is always the same. I tell people the reason why I volunteer is just because it's what I love to do. Like you mentioned, it's an addiction. Volunteering has become one of my hobbies, and it is something that I enjoy very much. Just as some people find their interest areas might be music, arts, or athletics, I found mine. It was volunteering, my focus area being those individuals with disabilities. I became the state director for the Miss Amazing pageant in the spring of 2013, and it has truly been the best thing to happen to me. Volunteering has changed me as a person. It isn't very easy to describe, but if it has happened to you, you know what I'm talking about. It is something that just puts all of your thoughts into a different perspective. This is why I think all people should volunteer, because it makes you different and perhaps a better person. I especially encourage teens to volunteer, not just because it fulfills some requirements at school, but because it truly is a great character builder. I want to congratulate both John and Andy and all of the other nominees for their outstanding achievements and contributions to our community. In closing, I wanted to share my favorite quote with them and everyone else who has ever made a difference by volunteering. It is important to remember that volunteers do not get paid, not because they are worthless, but because they are priceless. Thank you to the Medfield Foundation for this recognition and this wonderful event.
Thanks to the Rockland Trust Company's generosity, Andrea's donation is going to, of $100, is going to go to the Miss Amazing Inc., the initiative that she's brought to Massachusetts. Now, we move on to our next category, which is the recognition of those that are suggested for the Volunteer of the Year. And we'll start with Sonja, Johanson, and I guess Donna Olson is going to introduce Sonja and Sonja's work with the Victory Garden at the Wheelock School. Sonja is a master gardener and also lectures on master gardening, but I think we in town know her best as the Wheelock School Victory Gardener.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here today to tell you a little bit about Sonja Johanson, a nominee for the Medfield Volunteer of the Year Award. I first met Sonja when I became the principal of Wheelock School in the summer of 2012. I would drive into the driveway, so excited to be the new principal, and I'd see this lady working in what I knew was the Victory Garden. And finally I went up to her and introduced myself, and she very kindly and graciously explained and gave me the history of the Victory Garden. And I can tell you, Sonja has worked tirelessly in our Victory Garden to make it what it is today. Her contributions to the Rockywood Feast every year and sharing the joys of working the land with our students are priceless. She has lent the garden to Eagle Scout projects, Girl Scout Gold Award projects, and incorporated lessons into the curriculum with our teachers. She is also the community member of the Wheelock School Site Council. As a master gardener, Sonja trains other master gardeners, and many have put their required 60 hours towards certification at Wheelock's Victory Garden throughout the year. Through her efforts, the old shed was removed and the new one, with plenty of storage, was installed. Her call for leaves each year to use as mulch is answered many times over, and the old grape arbor has been removed, and another will be built through her collaboration with an Eagle Scouts project. Parents who volunteer in the garden, and they are not hard to come by, are amazed by Sonja and her team of volunteers. The Victory Garden provides opportunities for many community members to volunteer at Wheelock School. The benefits of Sonja's volunteerism is invaluable. The vegetables grown by our second graders to be harvested by those same children returning as third graders for the Rocky Woods Feast makes that experience just a little more personal for our students, since it is their vegetables that are in the famous Rocky Woods stew. The garden not only supports the Rocky Woods Feast, but is also tied to science and social studies curricula. Sonja has worked with teachers to better use the Victory Garden for hands-on science opportunities. She presents to our students on topics such as seed dissection and leads them on observational nature walks in the spring and fall. Sonja fulfills an important need at Wheelock School as she maintains our Victory Garden. Without Sonja, the garden could cease to exist, which would affect student learning. Her service to our school is extensive and appreciated. In addition to Wheelock School, other organizations where she volunteers include affiliations such as the Massachusetts Horticultural Society. Sonja is also the training course coordinator for the Massachusetts Master Gardener Association. She is a teacher, trainer, and presents programs all over the state at libraries, garden clubs, and schools. As described by the nature of Sonja's work, the impact is great, affecting over 400 students and staff members each year. Sonja's enthusiasm for gardening and her work ethic is an inspiration to our staff and students. She works effortlessly in her partnership with the school community and the community at large. She is a very special natural resource, a very special volunteer, and we thank her.
Thank you very much, Dina. And as I mentioned, Sonja is not in town today, and she did record her comments with Kathy.
At Wheelock School for about 9 years, and I definitely got into it by accident. I was asked to weed 1 row of potatoes, which I did for the summer, and I watched the whole garden and was a little bit horrified at the state that it was in, and felt for certain that I could do a better job than what I saw. And so I volunteered to help run the garden, and I realized after 1 summer that in fact I could not do a better job than the people who were already volunteering and working very hard, because it's not a one-person job. It's something that involves as many hands as we can possibly get. The kids are fantastic, but we also have parents come out, Boy Scout and Girl Scout groups come out. We've had a parent build us a new shed. We've had parents come out and dig beds. Every single class that comes out, parent volunteers come out to mulch and help the children carry things and guard them from using the shovels as lifesavers. So it's a big community project. And the biggest thing that I've gotten from being involved is a sense of community. I came from rural Maine. I came from a place where everyone knew everyone else, and you knew that you belonged. You knew your neighbors. You knew everyone in town. You couldn't walk into a store without greeting people that you knew and stopping to talk about the weather. So when I moved down to Massachusetts, I was really kind of miserable. I didn't know anyone. I didn't work in Medfield. I worked in Newton. I didn't have children in the school, so I wasn't really meeting other parents. The neighborhoods move pretty quickly. Sometimes houses sell when people move, and I just wasn't really getting to know people. And so I spent all my time going back up to Maine whenever I possibly could to get back to my friends and my community. And when I started volunteering at the Victory Garden, I started to get involved with Medfield and become part of the town. I got to know the kids. I and I knew many, many of them by name. I got to know the parents that came in to volunteer when they were helping the kids move mulch and shovel and dig potatoes and plant garlic. And over the course of the years, I start to feel like I really know people. I can go places in town and I'm likely to run into someone I know. I can greet kids by name on the street, which I never would have been able to do if I hadn't been involved with this project. And it also led me to be involved with the Master Gardener program, which is it's a program that is in every state in the United States. The Massachusetts Master Gardener program is in Wellesley. And I took that class because people would say to me, well, how are you qualified to run the Victory Garden? And the answer was mostly that because I'm willing to. But I didn't have a good answer for that, and I knew that the garden soil needed amendment, but I didn't really know what. There had to be an easier way to deal with the weeds than pulling them all by hand on my knees all summer long. So I took a class there and found my people. I found hundreds of other people that are just as enthusiastic and just as passionate about plants as I am, and they don't think it's weird that I want to stop and talk about potatoes for an hour. They think it's pretty common. So I've been able to be involved there. I now run the Master Gardener Training Program, and we have a number of other Master Gardeners here in Medfield that have become involved with this program, so it's strengthened my ties to this community and being down here in Massachusetts, and I really have enjoyed this project so much. I certainly get as much out of it as anybody does, and I'm very grateful that I've been able to kind of have free run in the garden, teach the kids guerrilla ecology, and let them know where their potatoes come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nicely done with Sonja. One of the things I'd mention is that Sonja had actually been nominated once before, which is one of those things that I should just let everybody know, that people can be nominated again a second time or more. Next, we'll hear from Kim Price, and she's going to be, her work is going to be described by Catherine Taco-Garrard. Their primary focus is with the Medfield Coalition for Public Education, another one of those Medfield institutions, but also Kim has worked with the Medfield Kids PMC and the Dale Street School CSA.
Thank you, Pete. I'm Catherine Taco-Garrard, and I'm really pleased to introduce Kim Price. I myself am new to Medfield, and so is she, and so this is kind of important to know about her. She came here about 6 years ago, and she arrived with her family, and since then, our town has really benefited from her volunteer work in this community. She has chaired the Medfield Kids Pan Math Challenge Ride for 2 years, and has been volunteering for the school's community school organization, the CSAs as they're better known, in some capacity for the past 5 years. She has taken on leadership roles in both of these organizations and manages to juggle multiple projects and groups of volunteers with poise and inclusivity that makes everyone feel like a valued helper. During the last 7 months, I have had the pleasure of working with Kim on the Medfield Coalition for Public Education as co-chairs of corporate sponsorship. Kim is a tireless partner in raising funds for the coalition. She recruited 7 new non-board members to the corporate sponsorship committee. She provided thorough training sessions that encouraged the committee to seek out new sources. As a result, corporate sponsorship has raised over $20,000 in cash so far this year. She, along with this group, also brought in several thousands of dollars worth of auction item donations for upcoming Spring Fling, which is on May 2nd. Her organizational skills are beyond reproach. She seeks out results and always comes to meeting with a spreadsheet that has helped everyone on the team. Kim's work with MCPE has resulted directly in increased funds, which means that MCPE has more money to fund educational grants for initiatives that are not covered by the school's budget. In addition, one of the things that Kim did this fall is, soon after she joined the group, she stepped up into a chair position for the very first trivia night that we held as one of our fundraisers for the coalition. And it was an amazing success, and in large part due to Kim's coordination. Recognizing her leadership skills, we asked her to become the MCP's vice president, which means that she is in training to be one of the co-presidents next year. If Kim is involved, you know that the activity will be well run and fun as well. Those of us who are completing our third-year tenure on the MCPE board, myself included, know that we leave this organization in very capable hands. Starting this June, as one of the new co-presidents of the MCPE, she will no doubt expand on the important work of our organization. I look forward to seeing her contribution to the future of MCPE and also to Medfield.
Hi, I just want to thank the Medfield Foundation and also Catherine and the Coalition for nominating me. My first volunteering position was about 15 years ago, and I was fired from it. So it's amazing to be here 15 years later. But I was working in Atlanta, Georgia at the Humane Society and in charge of getting dogs to be adopted by families. And I just wanted the best for the dogs. So I was in charge of interviewing families for the dogs, and I just kept worrying. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to remember to feed this dog, and are they going to take it for a walk? So after many, many weeks of volunteering, they said, you know what, you have not gotten any dogs adopted. So we're going to have to ask you to move on and do something else. So I did, and hopefully now those dogs have been adopted. But they wanted me to talk about the reasons I volunteer, and I have to say, about 6 years ago we moved here from California, and in California all the houses are on top of each other, and you basically go to work, you open your garage door, pull in, you don't even get out of your car before you close the garage door again so that you don't have to talk to your neighbors. There's no community sense whatsoever. So coming to Medfield really changed my thought of community. After we did move here, about 6 months after we moved, my husband, Mark, was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer. And not knowing anyone in town, we had our twins, Adam and Olivia, who were 3 years old at the time, were in preschool. And again, we knew nobody. My family was in Ohio, his family was in Wales. So it really was amazing. Mark was in the hospital for about 5 weeks getting a stem cell transplant, and I all of a sudden had meals at my door. I had emails coming in saying, how can I help you? What can I do for your kids? Can I mow your lawn? Like just everything. And I'm thinking, no one here knows me. And I have all this help and all this kindness in this town. So the thing that makes me want to volunteer is all of you, this community. You guys showed me how kind and considerate all of you are, and I just want to always pay that forward and be able to thank everybody, because a lot of it, I don't know who did it. There was just meals there, and there it was. So this is why I do this. I want to thank all of you for always helping us when we needed something. So my kids are in the Medfield school system. It's a wonderful school system. They do many, many things. So whatever I can do to help make that better, with fundraising or whatever it might be. I love it. I love a good spreadsheet. I will always have one. But also through corporate sponsorship this year, working with the coalition, going to all the local businesses in town, and I'm sure, and I know 1,000 people go in every day saying, can we have some money? Can we have something to help with our cause? And they always do it with a smile because this community is so kind and giving. So I want to thank all the local businesses for being such a support to the coalition, to the Kids PMC ride, and to the CSA. So thank you.
Next we have John Thompson. John, if you can come forward, and Bill Massaro did one of the two nominations. The other nomination for John was done by John Harney, and Bill and John worked out that Bill would do the presentations, and then Carol Cornelissen is going to do some discussion about what her involvement with John has been as well.
Thank you, Pete. Good afternoon. A couple of years ago, I stood at this very same podium and I thanked the Medfield Foundation and Rockland Trust for my Volunteer of the Year award. And in my remarks, I thanked those Medfield residents who also were playing a major role in trying to resolve the issues associated with the closing at the Medfield State Hospital. At that time, I also confessed that I had been asleep my first 30 years in Medfield. During those hundreds of weeks for 12 hours a day, my job was my whole life. Medfield was just a place I returned to every night to go to bed, to get ready for work the next morning. And maybe on the weekends, I cut the grass, and I went to the old transfer station, or the landfill actually before the transfer station. But I never had the time or the energy or perhaps the interest to get involved in community issues. It took retirement to give me that time. And also finding out that the legislation to dispose of the state hospital had been passed. I finally woke up. This legislation allowed DCAM, the state agency responsible for the property, to sell the core campus for a 440-unit development that would add 800 new residents to the town. I also learned that there were 8 hazardous waste sites on the property, and that the most serious was the construction and demolition debris area alongside and in the Charles River. And in presentations about the reuse plans, this same riverside area was being promoted as a natural attraction for developers and as a recreation for the future residents. So I did a little research. I looked into the conditions at that waste site. And for the next 6 months, I struggled to convince the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, that the cleanup that was proposed for this area was not acceptable. Not just because it was in the wetlands, but even more because the redevelopment adding 800 residents was planned at the top of the hill. Well, my early efforts, at best, may have mildly annoyed the state agencies. There was little hope that I was going to get any real change. And trying to be heard under the state's PIP program, which is supposed to provide a process for public review and comment, there just didn't seem to be any way that concerned residents could hope to argue against the recommendations being made by the state's cleanup experts. They are licensed site professionals, or LSPs. All this changed in January of 2010 at DCAM's first quarterly cleanup status meeting at the high school. Town administration and several residents, including John Harney and me, raised our concerns to little effect. But then, in the first of many actions that brought him here today, John Thompson stood up and added his personal, and as I later found out, his professional concerns for the environment and for the health and safety of our community. So it seems that John was also an LSP, with more than 22 years of environmental consulting experience, and very much respected in the environmental engineering community. And while I had been asleep for most of my years in town, John had been sacrificing his non-work hours, volunteering to preserve the town's history, restoration at the Dwight Derby House, historical and archaeological investigations on town properties, cleaning gravestones for the Vine Lake Preservation Trust, and protecting the town's wetlands on the Medfield Conservation Commission. Soon after this meeting at the high school, John approached the Board of Selectmen and offered to help in getting the town and its future residents an appropriate cleanup. Not just for the Charles River waste dump, but for the entire property. And the Selectmen appointed John to the newly formed Volunteer State Hospital Environmental Review Committee, or SHRC. And John was elected chairman at their first meeting. So under John, SHRC directed the town's outside environmental consultants review of DCAM's contamination investigations and drafted the comment and concern reply letters for the town. For several cleanup sites on the property, the PIP process was actually working. However, in spite of all of John's efforts, there had been no real progress on getting the cleanup that we all felt was needed at the Charles River. And by the middle of 2012, local and statewide media were reporting resident frustration and anger. A 10-resident protest had been filed with DEP. Our local legislators, Senator Jim Timilty, Representatives Denise Garlick, and then Representative Dan Winslow, as well as Senator John Kerry and our then Congressman Stephen Lynch, had written letters on our behalf to Governor Patrick and to the Army Corps of Engineers. And the town was exploring if legal actions might be taken against the state. In the middle of all of this, and it probably won't surprise you to know that I was among the most frustrated and angry, John calmly proposed joint mediations to make a last attempt to reach agreement on an acceptable alternative cleanup. DCAM Carol Cornelison, Commissioner, and And I really want to say that we owe her, our thanks and appreciation for all of her efforts. She agreed to John's suggestion to mediations. And these began in June of 2012. And as Ann Thompson mentioned before, she and I were also on the mediation team from the town. John was elected chairman of the mediation committee. Over the next 12 months, John directed town actions in more than 20 mediation sessions, most of them running for 3 or more hours, and all of them during his normal workday. So most meetings ended with John returning to the office. There were many evenings spent in PIP meetings or other town board and committee meetings like at the Conservation Commission. And job-related commitments, somehow they managed to sneak in. Conferences, training sessions, the things that were required for John to maintain his LSP certification and his professional standing. And somehow he balanced all of this with other continuing volunteer efforts like the Dwight Derby House, and with trips to Narragansett, Rhode Island, to sit on their town council and their advisory committee. So in July of 2013, and I want to point out that Commissioner Cornelison also attended all of these mediation sessions, DCAM and the town reached agreement on a significantly enhanced, more protective cleanup of the Riverside area. The mediation committee is still meeting as plans are finalized and new permit requests are being submitted. And the committee will continue to meet until all the cleanup and restoration is completed. And by the middle of next year, 100 years of misuse will not only have been repaired, but the restored area will have been significantly enhanced with easier public access to the Charles River and its hiking and equestrian trails, with a new kayak and canoe launching facility, and as an added benefit, the value and marketability of the adjoining hospital property will have been increased under any future reuse scenario. And if this weren't enough reason to recognize John as 2013's Adult Volunteer of the Year, just a little less than 2 weeks ago, 1,000 Medfield residents voted nearly unanimously to authorize the selectmen to proceed with negotiations for purchase of the Medfield State Hospital property. And a week from tomorrow, Medfield residents will vote on a ballot question allowing the town to raise the funds needed for that purchase. And while current residents and future generations will certainly benefit from the results of the new cleanup at the hospital, John's calm approach to resolving the original issues with DCAM helped to establish the atmosphere of cooperation that made this purchase possible. So it's taken 10 years since the hospital closed, but thanks in large part to John's efforts, we're finally back to the crossroads and about to make the decision that will decide the future character and quality of life in Medfield. John, for all your work, for all your support, thanks and congratulations.
Thank you, Bill. In recognition of, or to discuss John's work, we also invited Carol Cornelison, Commissioner of DCAM, to come and comment on her experiences. Carol, is it 2 years this March that you've been the commissioner? 3 now. Oh my goodness, how time flies when we're having so much fun with the state hospital. But the minute that Carol came to the state, it was a totally different environment. She just came to the town and she said, "We're going to start over. We're going to start from scratch, and we're going to get it done." So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to be asked to be here at the Medfield Foundation's recognition of volunteers. And I've done a lot of volunteering, as probably all of you in this room have, and others in your community. And you know what the reward to those who provide service is. It's more service, right? And that's very clear from all of the resumes of volunteer service that have been talked about. And so I congratulate everyone who has been recognized as a volunteer here in the Medfield community. I will say that it was a little surprising to hear how awesome your resume is, John. I actually didn't believe John had a job. I didn't. He came to so many meetings. He went to more meetings than I went to because we had the full group meetings of the DCAM team and consultants and Medfield's team and consultants, led by John. And then they also had technical meetings. I'm not an LSP, although frankly, folks, I felt like I was one after all of those meetings. And with the help of people like Bill Massaro and Thompson, we were able to develop a process first and then walk through that process and come up with a solution that I think it's fair to say none of us at the beginning of the meetings thought we would get to. But I think it was John's leadership that really demonstrated his commitment to this community, that his leadership that really demonstrated so much integrity, just so much integrity as a leader. He was calm, he was thoughtful, he was creative throughout the whole process. And for me, sitting across the table, when we started our meetings, it was the town on one side of the table, it was DCAM the devil on the other side of the table. But by the end of that process, we were all sitting variously next to each other and really gained a new level of respect for each other. The state obviously is not always right. And when I came into the picture, I really recognized that we had the wrong approach, and I didn't even know whether we had the right solution, but certainly the approach was wrong. And John, with leading his team, gave us the space to say, okay, we can turn this and go another way and come out with a resolution and a plan and a way forward that meet the needs of this community and satisfy the state. And to me, the state's needs were, in some respects, small with regard to, when you put that next to the needs of the town and this community that's here and embedded here, obviously, and looking at what is going to be the future of this property for future generations. So I regard John very highly as a colleague and a friend, and someone whose leadership I certainly admire. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Carol. One thing that I would add is that John has literally worked on this hospital project for 10 to 20 hours a week for years at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and I'll keep this somewhat short because we listened. It's been a long afternoon, but I want to thank, first I want to thank the Medfield Foundation and the Rockland Trust for putting this together. It's been a wonderful afternoon so far. And I also want to thank Ann. My volunteer experience on the state hospital property started with a 3x5 index card that I got in the mail with a little handwritten note that said, would you be willing to volunteer on a committee to help oversee the environmental cleanup at the hospital? And that was from Ann, and I've kept that card ever since.
I'm surprised you didn't rip it up.
I might use it as a voucher in the future. I guess I want to recognize and thank Mike Sullivan for the support from the town. Mike and Christine Freeweiler both have been great support for us throughout this process and quietly supported us both personally and fiscally through town meetings when we needed to have some funds in order to have professional review. And I want to thank Bill and John Harney both for being the catalyst to keep me going, to giving me that extra energy. That really was my motivation to take the reports, to read them, to look at the data, and to interpret it in a layman's way so that other people could understand what we're looking at. And ultimately without trust between people you are negotiating with and talking to, it can't work. And the first time I was invited into Boston to meet with Carol to talk about some of the data that we were questioning, I was unsure of where that would lead, but within the first meeting, I knew that Carol was a person that was willing to listen
And we have a phrase at work for people that when you're talking to someone and they're looking at you but they're not hearing what you're saying, we call it already listening. And in my first meeting with Carol, I knew that she was listening and she wanted to hear what the town's perspective was for the state hospital property and for the cleanup. My other motivation was that when I was in college, I lived on an Indian reservation in Wyoming, and I learned that there is no beginning and there's no end. When you look over my shoulder out the window, that's our community and that's our environment, and it's not just the people, but it's the trees and the living things around us, and that we have a commitment to passing that environment on to our children and our grandchildren. And I wanted to use my expertise that I had learned from the time of being interested in what's out the window as a little kid, to spending time collecting samples as a child of bugs or sediment or beach sand. I wanted to put that to use, and after many years of school and getting into the hard science, the chemistry of how the trees are drawing water from the soil and how the soil contains the nutrients and how the sun allows the tree to grow, I wanted to be able to use that knowledge in order to foster a better community. And Medfield has been a wonderful place in which to practice that. So I really just want to thank the community and the foundation and Rockland Trust. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Rockland Trust generosity, Vine Lake Preservation Trust will receive a $100 donation in John's name. The next is the Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Lifetime Achievement Award was created in 2012 as a way to recognize the substantial energy commitment that a Medfield volunteer has dedicated over years, many years of service. This award category pays tribute to a long history of community service, and this year Andy Thompson was recognized, and his daughter Barbara nominated him, and Barbara is going to talk about Andy. So Barbara.
So I also want to thank everybody for coming today and to the Rockland Trust for sponsoring this. I nominated my dad for the Lifetime Achievement Award. He knew that he had won before he died 5 weeks ago today. He was tickled by the honor and was kind of surprised about it. He's actually was fairly humble in nature, and I don't think he kind of knew that he deserved this kind of award. But let me tell you what he did. My parents moved to Medfield 49 years ago, and during those 49 years, my dad volunteered in one way or another for 47 of them. He was mostly involved in youth sports as a Cub and Boy Scout leader. He spent 2 terms on the Park and Rec Committee. He was part of the Medfield Physical Fitness Association, and he was still vice commander or something or other at the Legion when he died. While he was on the Park and Rec Commission, he was running the swim pond for a couple years. One of his favorite stories of the time is when the lovely female lifeguards asked them if it was okay that they wore 2-piece swimsuits instead of the 1 piece that they had been wearing. That made, with a big grin on his face, my dad said, "Oh yeah." My dad was a Little League coach for 11 years and president of the league for 3 years. I remember index cards all over the houses and pieces of paper keeping track of who was on what team. It was long before computers. He was a soccer coach for 5 years, a hockey coach for 9 years, and a lacrosse coach for 5 years. He was All-American lacrosse player at his alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania. And although he got paid for this, he was actually a high school lacrosse ref until he was 80. He was running up and down the fields. So much of what he had to do with sports activities was with his 4 sons. There were no sports other than school field hockey for girls when I was growing up in town. I'm the oldest of the kids. By the time my much younger sister could play, this is a family joke. Every year for my birthday, my sister says, "Happy birthday" to my much older sister. But by the time she came along, there were some sports in town for girls. My sister played softball, and the first time my dad saw her pitch, she said, "She threw like a girl." And the next day, he bought her a bat, ball, and glove and practiced with her. and later he helped bring girls soccer to town. My dad never missed any of his kids' games if he could help it. In fact, like John, they said about John, it was kind of like you didn't know he had a job because he was always at some sporting event or another. And until he couldn't go anymore, he went to his grandsons and granddaughters' many sporting events and even driving them to town. He was very, very proud of their sporting achievements as well. The Medfield Physical Fitness Association, which we always called at home the jogging group, raised money for scholarships, and he participated in that group until close to his death. For 47 years, he ran the scoreboard at the Medfield home football games, and he was the only one to have done so without pay. So that was, I think somebody talked about that before. And indirectly, he helped the town quite a bit by helping my mom, who's a former selectman who's still active in town committees, to her meetings as she's legally blind. So that was my talk. And to tell you why I nominated him and felt that he deserved recognition for all the things that he was involved in. At this point, my dad would have gotten up and told you why he was volunteered. He would not have enjoyed doing that. I will do it for him. The first thing that comes to mind, I was actually going to wear one of my dad's sweaters for this part. The first thing that comes to mind was my dad was very, very athletic and he loved sports. So he wanted to share his love for athletics and invite and coach and inspire others to do this. He wanted to inspire teamwork and to use his athletic and leadership skills in a productive way. There is a strong personal connection for him in the things that he volunteered for. And last, but certainly not least, it gave him time to spend with his children. One thing I don't think he intended, because of consequences his and my mom's volunteering, is that they taught us, their 6 children, the value and satisfaction of volunteering. All of us have done so, from coaching teams to being a Girl Scout leader, to helping at a hospice, to teaching CCD, and to being a classroom parent, to working in a soup kitchen. I hope I didn't forget anything. I'm sure I did. And I know I've not included at least half of the things that my sister has volunteered for. True? I hope our kids, my dad's grandkids too, have learned the love of volunteering and how good it feels to do so. Dad, I know you're listening, and I want to tell you how much we miss you and what a big hole you've made in our lives and the lives of the town, and how deserving you are of this award.
And again, thanks to Rockland Trust's generosity, the center, where we are right now at Medfield, will receive a $100 donation in Andy's name. And I did see that Representative Dooley has come, and maybe Sean, you want to give some remarks to our award winners at this point? Thanks to Facebook, I also happen to know that Sean owns a kilt now that St. Patrick's Day has just recently happened.
I apologize for being late. One of the joys of being a state representative is that you get doubled and triple booked on the weekends. So I just wanted to say how great it is that the Medfield Foundation is doing this. Public service is important to me, and it's important to our community. It's amazing what these people have accomplished. It's the lifeblood of our community. It's what makes Medfield so great, makes my entire district so great. It's these people that are willing to give back. Without this, we don't have the sense of community. We need to have more of this. And so I guess in the spirit of Andy, and also as the other people, I would just challenge everyone here to go out and do more volunteering, give back to your community, do whatever you can, whatever interests you, whether it's for the children or the seniors or sports or wildlife, whatever is you're passionate about, embrace that and give back. Unfortunately, there's not enough resources to go around. Our towns are continually strained on the amount of money, and things cost more and more every year. So anything that you can do to give back, it's great. And I applaud these winners for this year and the past year's winners for doing that and making our community and the town of Medfield so great. Thank you.
Thank you, John. No, but I saw the picture. It looked very good. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Evan Weisenfeld, who's the president of the Medfield Foundation, to say a couple things. While Evan is coming up, I'll just mention that when I called Andy Thompson to tell him that he had won the Volunteer of the Year, I apologize to Andy for the fact that the ceremony had gone on so long the year before when Ann got recognized for her volunteer work, and Andy and I had a discussion about the importance of beer as the elixir of making meetings work.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming. First of all, I'd like to thank the Blue Moon Bagel Cafe for the food donations today. I invite everybody after the event is over to go over and enjoy some of the nice food they donated. Thank you to Rockland Trust for their financial support. It is very important to us to be able to put on this event, and we couldn't do so without their generous financial support. Thank you to our distinguished guests who came today and gave up their personal time to help us recognize our volunteers. You all do a lot of volunteer work. You do a lot of things for our community, and we are very appreciative of that. Thank you to everyone that participated and submitted nominations recognizing all of our volunteers, and thank you to everybody for attending today. It's important that we recognize these people, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you to the Medfield Foundation Board of Directors and for their support of the town of Medfield. They all do great work, and if they weren't on the committee, they would be eligible to be nominated, but unfortunately, they are not allowed. The Medfield Foundation is an all-volunteer group, and we are always looking for more people to get involved and help us. We run the annual Angel Run. We also run the Volunteer Awards. If you or someone that you know is interested in volunteering, you can contact us through our website at medfieldfoundation.org or through our Facebook or Twitter accounts. And finally, I'd like to say a special thank you to Kathy Brennan and Pete Peterson for their inspired work for today's event. They have both put in countless hours, and this event would not have been able to happen without their dedication. Thank you to both of you for everything that you do.
Hi, I'm Larry Kramer.
And I'm Andy Spencer.
We're from Rue 109, and you're watching
Medfield.tv.